Isn't it working? Hello, everybody. Welcome to another one of our Facebook Live chats. My name is Sophia. I'm a client services specialist here at the Dempsey Center in Lewiston, which means I am the front desk face. So once we reopen, if you come in, you'll see me sitting there waiting to greet you. I'm here today with Sarah Walter, who is our new Youth and Family Services Manager at the Dempsey Center. So Sarah, thank you so much for joining us today. How about you tell me a little bit about yourself? How did you come to be working with children and families at the Dempsey Center?
I have been working with children and families for over 10 years. And my interest in that work really started because I believe that stories are important and they're kind of what bring us together and connect us as people. And I just love how authentic kids are and the playfulness and energy that they bring to the table. So I've really enjoyed working with them. And when you start working with children, you quickly realize that you're not just working with a single child, you're working with the whole family. And so that's how I've kind of ended up doing social work with families and children. Prior to joining the Dempsey Center in April of this year, I was working for the state of Maine. And then prior to that, I was also working at a special purpose day treatment school here in Maine with children and families. I have worked with all ages of kids from preschool up through teenagers, as well as with adults. And one of my favorite kind of work experiences that really cemented my decision to get my master's in social work was working as a wilderness therapy field instructor with teenagers in Utah. And so just kind of getting to see their potential and kind of excitement and resilience is always inspiring to me. And so when I heard about the opportunity to come work at the Dempsey Center and be a part of the incredible work they do to support people of all ages across Maine impacted by cancer, and knowing as well that outdoor programming is a part of the youth and family services offered at the Dempsey Center, I was really excited to kind of bring my passion and past experiences to the team and to get to be a part of the great work that goes on at the Dempsey Center.
Awesome. Well, you seem to have a very wide background on a bunch of different things. So as the Youth and Family Services Manager, you manage what we call our Healing Tree program. Can you tell us a little bit about what that program is and who it's for?
Yes. So the Healing Tree program, or the Healing Tree, is the name of the Youth and Family Services program at the Dempsey Center. And the Healing Tree is the Dempsey Center for children and teens who are under the age of 18. So we chose to give it the name of the Healing Tree instead of calling it Youth and Family Services because a tree is such a powerful metaphor for the family tree. Knowing that when someone is diagnosed with cancer, it doesn't just affect the person in the family that's diagnosed, it impacts the whole family, including children and siblings and even friends and family outside of the nuclear family. And we also liked the metaphor of a tree because we believe it's important to provide wraparound services to children and their families, and that nature and the outdoors can be a really profound source of healing. So the Healing Tree is not just a set of services, but we see it as a really special place, both within the physical center and as kind of a comprehensive model of care. And it's based upon, working with this family as a whole and believing that kids and families are resilient, and we're working with all of them to kind of help build trust and maintain strong attachments throughout their difficult experience with cancer impact. And so as the Youth and Family Services Manager and kind of the leader of the Healing Tree program, at least in the Lewiston office, I work closely with parents and guardians to find the best support strategies that are going to work for each family, kind of taking into account their particular family dynamics, their children and what their individual needs are, where the children are at in their own development and their age, and then what the cancer impact in each person and family's individual needs are. Children and teens really need consistent care, and it helps when it's kind of through one point person. So the Healing Tree exists to kind of make it easier for them to access Dempsey Center services by having kind of one strong connection point. And that's the really beautiful Healing Tree room we have in the physical center, and also through kind of a single point person who's usually one of the Healing Tree counselors. And we have been around, like I said, since 2010. So the Healing Tree program is 10 years old. And we think it's a really important part of the Dempsey Center's work because over 1,600 households in Maine with children are impacted by a family member's cancer diagnosis each year.
Okay, so how are children and teens impacted when someone in the family is diagnosed?
And well, like I said, it's, when someone's diagnosed with cancer, we know that it's not just the person who's impacted with the diagnosis, but it's all of their friends and family members. And that includes their children or siblings, if it's a child that's diagnosed with cancer. And children may be affected in various ways at any age, depending on their relationship to the person with cancer, their age, and the seriousness of the person's illness. And even kids who are infants, even under the age of 3, they might not be able to understand what cancer is, but they've sensed the stress that their parents or that their loved ones are experiencing. And oftentimes that looks like children reaching out for finding a sense of comfort and safety during that time. So you see that most when cancer impacts children's daily routines in some way. Sometimes signs that they might be impacted kind of in more negative ways might be a regression in their behaviors, like acting like they're a little bit younger, or stopping doing a skill that they might have been doing before. Might look like being more clingy and kind of wanting to spend more time with mom or dad or whoever those important people in their lives are. And, it varies very much from kid to kid, though, and how resilient they are. It changes kid to kid. Some kids can be very strong and positive and be an important part of kind of their family members' treatment and kind of care team, but then might need more support after they've passed away in bereavement or at various stages through the journey. And then teenagers are kind of their own thing as well, that sometimes they may shut down and really try to avoid confronting upsetting feelings. They may not want to spend time with the person as much. They might get involved with other friends or activities. Different kind of behaviors might come up depending on how they're doing. Sometimes that looks sadness or grief or hurt might look more like anger. But children and teenagers are not just little adults. They need kind of specialized services. And that's why the Healing Tree exists, is to help provide the best support for each kid and for each family, depending on what that is for them. And that's kind of individualized. So,
yeah. So the Healing Tree is a really incredible program. And I'm sure anyone who's watching right now who doesn't know about it is interested in learning a little bit more about it, or may even have someone in mind that they think this program would be helpful for. So how would a family get involved with the Healing Tree if they were interested?
So, a lot of our referrals come from doctors or oncologists, but any family member or friend of a child, teen, or family can reach out to the Dempsey Center. And to do that, I always encourage people to go to our website, and that has our contact phone numbers, or you can email us at info@dempseycenter.org. And the first step is always a phone call. And we call that a Healing Tree orientation. And that can be with any adult that's a friend or, family member, and or for the parent or guardian of a child. And that's just so we can get to know you and start to know the situation and the child and the family, and kind of determine what services might be a good fit. Before a child starts or teenager starts services at the Dempsey Center, we always have to speak with their parent or guardian and get their permission for them to participate. But once we kind of do those initial phone calls, usually where that leads is to a Healing Tree introduction. And that's where we would introduce the kids or the teenagers to the Healing Tree. And so prior to COVID-19, that looked like having them come into our office. We do an office tour of the Dempsey Center. They get to sit down with one of our Healing Tree counselors and meet them face to face. We get to know each other. And then we talk about our services that we offer and what might sound like it's of interest to them. And then we usually build what we call a comfort pack. And they get to pick out a backpack. They get a book about, having a loved one with cancer from either the American Cancer Society, or we have a special workbook for teens, and then to pick out some fidgets or a blanket or a doll or some other kind of comfort objects that they get to take home that day. It's not a counseling appointment. It's just a time for them to come in. It's best usually when it's done actually when the children or teens are doing well, because the goal is just to kind of establish that connection, that the Dempsey Center is a safe and warm place where they get to talk about cancer or be kind of open and honest about how that might be impacting their lives. And most importantly, where they can play, because the Healing Tree, we always incorporate play and adventure and trying to have some fun into what we do in our programmings at the Healing Tree too. Once the children come to that Healing Tree introduction appointment, kind of all of our programs are open for any child, and that includes support groups, individual counseling, family counseling. It also includes parent coaching or counseling for the parents in regards to parenting and working with their children. And it also involves our adventure programming. We run a teen summer camp called Space to Breathe, and we also do some family days, and hopefully, depending on COVID-19, then we'll be able to offer some more of those in-person activities as well. And I would also say sometimes when we do that first call with an adult or a parent and guardian, that's enough. Sometimes parents or family and members or friends are just looking for some support on how to talk to their kids about cancer, or how to support a teenager or a child through this experience. And just having a conversation, we can do some coaching or answer some questions on how to do that. So making that kind of first connection with us is definitely not a big commitment, and we're here and just want to be of support in any way we can.
Yeah, awesome. So you've mentioned COVID a couple times, and obviously a lot of our services have changed due to the pandemic, and trying to kind of adjust and make our services still accessible for people. So how has the pandemic changed things for children, teens, and families coping with cancer? And how is the Healing Tree responding?
I would say one of the biggest impacts on children and their families is just how much kids and teenagers' routines have changed, especially their daily routines with school being canceled and a lot of sports and summer camps and kind of those extra activities not being available this year. And what we know is that when families are coping with cancer impacts or with grief and loss after a cancer impact, that maintaining routine and rituals and that structure and kind of knowing what's going to happen from day to day is a real source of safety and comfort for kids. And so they're really missing that in some ways right now, and social support from their friends and kind of other people that might be in their social support network that they can't see in person or they can't talk to right now. I would say we're responding by trying to offer virtual services as often as we can for children and their families. When the pandemic first started, we kind of had to put the brakes on youth and family services for a minute and say, whoa, this is new territory. How do we do this virtually? And I, especially as the new youth and family services manager, have been so impressed that the Dempsey Center and the Healing Tree has been able to quickly get virtual services started for children and their families. So we are back up and running at what I would say is full speed. We're offering virtual Healing Tree orientations and introductions. We're offering virtual counseling services for children and their parents. And for some, that doesn't work for all children and families. And we understand that because it really depends on the kids and attention spans and how engaged they can be. But we are running teen group weekly. And we also have started offering parent and then support for seedlings workshops for our elementary school age children. And so we're doing our best we can to kind of respond to those needs and make virtual services available. And then I would say the other impact is that family members often can't go to appointments or to visit their loved ones with cancer in the hospital or going to those doctor's appointments. And I know in the past it's been very helpful for children to come to our Cancer 101 experience where they got to go visit the chemo or infusion center, or that they get to go with a parent and kind of see what they do when somebody goes for chemo and kind of what happens at those doctor's appointments. And right now that's not possible. And so I think just providing a little bit more education and information both to parents and family members on how to support kids and on to kids on kind of what that process looks like and how they can stay safe and kind of answer any questions or worries they have, knowing that COVID-19 has kind of added another layer of anxiety around healthcare and for a lot of cancer patients who are immunocompromised.
Definitely. For anyone who's just joining us, I'll reintroduce ourselves. I'm Sophia, front desk specialist, and this is Sarah Walter, our new Youth and Family Services manager, manager of the Healing Tree program. And we're talking about how we were just talking about how the pandemic has kind of influenced services that we can offer for youth and families. So Sarah, what can parents do right now to help children after a cancer diagnosis?
There's a few things that parents can do to try to minimize the negative impacts of a cancer diagnosis on their families and their children. And really, it's often involves listening to kind of the natural instincts they already have. Parents and guardians usually first want to protect their children, and then they also tend to want to prepare them for what might happen in the future. So the best way to do that is to really open and honestly talk with children and teens, depending in an age-appropriate manner, so depending on what's best for their age, throughout the process. And so what that usually looks like first is figuring out a time to share with them, what the cancer diagnosis is. Ideally, any child older than 3 should eventually be able to be told the basic information of, who has cancer, what the name of the cancer is, the part of the body where it's located, how it will be treated, and then how their lives will change because of this. And so that might mean, who's going to take care of them, or that mom or dad might not be able to do the same things they did before, but they're going to spend time with them in new ways. And you want to try to do this in a balanced manner. So finding a time that the kids are calm and in a good headspace, that they're well fed, that they are well rested, and that they're going to be able to kind of digest and process that information. And at a time for parents and guardians when they're calm and they're in a good place and well enough that they can kind of share that information in a matter of fact way. And it's also okay for them to say, this is what I know right now, and I don't know the answer to that question right now, but when something changes, I'll let you know. And that's a process that we often support parents and families through, is kind of sitting down and how to have these really difficult conversations that are so important, though, because they reinforce that sense of trust and safety within the family unit. And then I think other things they can think about is keeping routine in mind. Routines and rituals help kids feel safe and secure. And so the more that, although it seems like a time maybe for rules to go out the window and to allow a lot of special exceptions because of what might be going on, the more that you can stick with a familiar routine for kids and teenagers, the more that it usually cuts down on kind of some of those big behaviors that might come up with difficult feelings. And it helps them kind of know what to expect each day. I think the other thing is to address their worries, give, again, age-appropriate, honest answers, and give kids opportunities to ask questions. And this can be where the Healing Tree comes in. We love to kind of sit with families and create space to have those conversations, both virtually now and then hopefully when the center reopens, maybe in October, if families are ready to return, we can do that in person again as well. The only 2 other things I think are prepare in advance for any changes. So letting kids know what's happening. If there's a change in the routine, if whoever has the cancer diagnosis has to be going into the hospital, when that's going to happen, talking about it beforehand. If they might see a change, like somebody's getting a port or they're expecting their loved one to lose their hair, talking about that ahead of time so that they can know what to expect can be really helpful. And then involving their village. We all know that it really takes a village to raise kids, and it's best to really ask for support and lean on anybody who might be a support and a friend in that child's life. Could be teachers, coaches. The more you can kind of let people know what's going on, then they can have more people to kind of walk with them on this journey. And we find that usually is really helpful for families. And I know that's hard. That's another place where the pandemic might have changed things, that connecting with kind of those outside supports has become more difficult.
Definitely, yeah. And that leads me to my next question. If you are a family member or a friend who's not the parent of a child who's been impacted by cancer, what can you do to help?
So I think one of the best things you can do, kind of what we were just talking about with having these card conversations, is I would follow the parent's lead. So if they haven't chosen to tell their children about the cancer diagnosis yet, follow their lead, wait and make sure it's time. Ask the parents if they need any support or help with that. And you can always reach out to the healing tree. So it doesn't matter what an adult's role is in a child's life. We'd be happy to support them as part of that child's kind of support network. So they can speak with a healing tree counselor by reaching out to us and discuss any concerns they might have or ways to support the child. In order for the child to start services, we would need to have a conversation with the child's parent or guardian. But we are always here and we're ready whenever a family is ready. So I would also say to family members and friends, let the parents and let the kids know that the Dempsey Center exists and what we can offer, and that we're always here. And then again, kind of follow their lead for when they're ready. Going through a cancer diagnosis, especially a recent diagnosis followed by treatment, can be a really stressful time. And sometimes it's a few months or after a family gets through that initial phase of treatment before they have the time or the energy to really reach out for that support. And that's okay. And one of the great things about the healing tree is that there's no cost and there's no limit on our services. So that's true for all of the Dempsey Center services, that there's never a cost, but then also for our work with children, there's no time limit. So we have some clients that have been seeing us for 5 or 6 years from diagnosis and then through the death of their loved one, and then for bereavement services. And so we are thankful that the healing tree is a place that children and families can find support long-term for issues that come up due to cancer impact.
Anyone who's watching, if you have any questions for Sarah or myself, feel free to pop them in the comments and we'll make sure to get to them by the end. And make sure that you're following along and hopefully we can get to all your questions. So Sarah, what is one thing that people might be surprised to learn about the healing tree?
So I think one thing that might be surprising is that healing tree services are not just for children. So I think when people hear children or youth, they tend to think like 13 and younger, but actually a huge portion of our services are for teenagers, so 13 to 18. And then actually we consider any client up to the age of 23 to 25 to still be a kind of a youth or young adult. And that's because the more we learn about the brain and we learn about kind of stages of life, that people that are 23 and younger still are more similar to kind of those late teenage years of kind of figuring out their identity and what do they want to do in life and developing their independence. And so they also need specialized services just as younger children do. And so a lot of our services focus on that from teen group. Like I said, our outdoor adventure programming. So we offer 2 outdoor adventure days a year specifically for teens. And we've gone sailing or rock climbing, as well as other outdoor activities. They've done ice skating or snow tubing in the winter. And then we have Space to Breathe, which is a week-long summer camp. And that's for teens impacted by cancer and that may include cancer loss. And so teens going through grief and bereavement. And that's one of kind of the teens' favorite programs is that Space to Breathe program, because it's a really unique experience and opportunity. And we get to do lots of adventure programming and really benefit from some of that healing that nature can provide. I think the other piece is too, just thinking about young adults. We've had some requests and outreach for more services for young adults, which thinking like even in the age range of 20 to 35. So it even includes young families, parents to young children who may have a cancer diagnosis. And, we're here to kind of serve all of those populations with specialized evidence-based treatments and support. I think the other piece I would add is just that again, that outdoor piece, because I think that's something, especially with the pandemic, we haven't been able to feature, but we're going to be hopefully bringing that back soon.
Awesome. So obviously the center is not open right now, but we're still offering a lot of resources virtually. What resources would you say are available through the Dempsey Center's Healing Tree program right now?
So right now we have quite a bit available. We can do kind of those initial virtual Healing Tree orientations or assessments for adults and families, and then Healing Tree introductions for kids. We're doing virtually as well. We use doxy.me, which is a HIPAA compliant therapy platform. It's super easy. It's just a single link that we email you ahead of time. And we can also do a lot of the initial calls with a parent or adult over the phone. And then we're offering virtual counseling one-on-one for children, teens, and families. And we have two support groups, I say, running right now. We have Teen Group, which meets every Thursday night from 3:30 to 5 p.m. And we use Zoom to meet. And then we have Support for Seedlings, which has been once a month. And so our next Support for Seedlings, which is a yoga meets support group for kids ages 5 to 11. And that's meeting on Monday, August 17th from 2:30 to 3:30. And then lastly, we have a Parenting Through Cancer workshop that's going to be a one-time event on Monday, August 10th from 12:30 to 2. And depending on how that goes, I think our hope would really is to explore if the need is there in the community for a parents support group. On top of that, we love to use kind of our knowledge and of resources out there in the community to help connect families with either other long-term services they may need or with other programs. We network and work together sometimes with and refer people back and forth between places like the Center for Grieving Children or other resources in the community. I would also say that right now we have so we can help kind of connecting families to find things that meet their needs if we can't provide the service, is what I would say. And then lastly, we have a lot available online. So if you're not ready to make a phone call and connect with us at the Healing Tree right now, we do have Dempsey Connects, and there's a youth and family section on there that has some great videos, meditations, kids yoga videos, and a lot of great written resources and information that's available and just a click away. And so I'd encourage friends and families to check that out as well, especially if they're stressed and short on time, which we know a lot of families are.
Definitely. Well, it doesn't look like we have any questions from our viewers, so I just want to thank you so much for joining me today. Anyone who's watching and wants to learn more about our Healing Tree program, please visit our website, dempseycenter.org. Also visit Dempsey Connects tab on that page, and you can find a bunch of different virtual resources to try to help us adjust to this new normal. Sarah, thank you so much for joining me. Thank you to our viewers for watching, and have a great day, everybody.
Thank you, Sophia. Take care.